Why do the careless things people say or do still unsettle you? You tell yourself it's not worth it, yet your chest tightens, your jaw clenches, and suddenly anger has found its way back in. It's not the grand betrayals that disturb you most. It's the small, ordinary moments, the careless tone, the dismissive shrug, the thoughtless comment that lingers in your mind longer than it should. You didn't ask for this fight, yet your peace feels stolen by someone who may not even realize what they've done. But remember this, their carelessness is not your responsibility. The moment you react without thought, you hand over your power. Not because they are strong, but because you allowed them to dictate your state of mind. That doesn't have to continue. You're here because you want to stop giving your energy to what doesn't deserve it. You want control, not over the world, but over yourself. That's strength. That's clarity. That's freedom. The Stoics taught that no one can truly harm you unless you give them permission. Today, we bring that wisdom forward. You can learn to keep your mind steady even when others stumble. You can choose to respond as someone in command of himself, not someone pulled in every direction by every careless word. You're not alone in this struggle. Every strong person has faced it. And if you're tired of losing your peace to trivial things, this is your turning point. Like this video, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to reclaim their peace. So let's begin. First, recognize the pattern before it takes hold. You don't explode because of one small comment. You explode because you never noticed the buildup. That's the trap. You think you're reacting to this one moment, but often you've been carrying invisible weight all week. Small frustrations at work, tension at home, delays, careless remarks. Each time you brush it aside, telling yourself it doesn't matter. But they stack quietly, and then one more small thing pushes you past your limit. Suddenly, you snap. The truth is that anger didn't come out of nowhere. It followed a pattern. And because you didn't notice the signs, it built beneath the surface. That's why awareness is your first line of defense. Anger isn't random. It's practiced. Each time you let small irritations pile up without addressing them, you rehearse the habit. And when the overflow comes, it isn't strength, it's simply release. In that moment, you're not in control. You're leaking. And every time you explode at something unworthy, you reinforce the same cycle. Frustration, silence, pressure, outburst, regret. Unless you interrupt it, the loop continues. Think of your mind like a dam. Ignore the tiny cracks and pressure builds unnoticed. Then one day, even the lightest touch makes the wall collapse. It was never the feather that broke it. It was the weight you left unexamined. So how do you stop giving anger that kind of power? Start with awareness. Learn to identify your triggers before they own you. Track your patterns like a strategist. When do you feel your patience thinning? In traffic? During meetings? On rushed mornings? In certain tones of voice? Write it down. Don't trust memory. It will slip. Self-awareness isn't passive. It's a discipline. And it's the difference between a man who reacts blindly and a man who responds with clarity and strength. Here's where many people get it wrong. They say, "I've just got a short temper. That's who I am." But that isn't identity. It's habit. Anger is not your nature. It's a pattern you've allowed to repeat. The Stoics had a word for that: slavery. Not to another person, but to your impulses. A man who cannot hold his tongue when provoked isn't demonstrating strength. He's showing that he is ruled. Noise is not power. Control is. So shift the focus. Don't waste energy trying to manage the outside world. Begin by noticing your inner world. Watch closely for the first signs. The tightness in your chest, the quickened breath, the clench of your jaw. These are signals. They are not commands. That's the moment to pause, to breathe, step back. The trigger doesn't have to pull you. You're not a puppet, you're a builder. And each time you interrupt the cycle, even once, you're laying the foundation of self-mastery. You want to stop being angered by small things? Then stop being surprised by them. Foolishness, mistakes, and carelessness will always appear. Expect them, prepare for them, and when they arrive, let them pass without shaking you. That is real power. Track your triggers, guard your energy, and then go deeper. Ask yourself, what am I truly angry at? It's rarely the spilled coffee, the slow driver, or the careless tone. The spark is external, but the fire is already inside you. Often, it's not the event, it's what the event represents. Disrespect, a loss of control, built-up pressure, unmet expectations. That's the real struggle. Anger wears disguises. It may look like rage, but beneath it is often shame, fear, or frustration unspoken. The work is not to silence anger, but to understand it. When you see it clearly, it loses its grip. You don't lose your temper at a broken remote because of the remote. You lose it because the whole day has been slipping away and your patience is already worn thin. You don't snap at your partner for forgetting something small. You snap because you've been carrying burdens in silence, and the weight finally shows. This is what the Stoics understood. Emotions are not enemies, but if you don't examine them, they mislead you. So pause and ask, what am I really angry at right now? Is it this small moment, or is it everything that's been piling up behind it? Many confuse anger with strength, believing a raised voice proves power. But power is not in the noise. Power is in clarity, the ability to name what's true beneath the surface. Often, what we call stupidity in others is really frustration in ourselves. If you don't master your emotions, they will master you, and they won't even be honest about it. You'll walk around barking at the world, convinced you're strong, when really you're only reacting. Think of it like pressure building in a vessel. Ignore the small leaks, and eventually even the lightest touch will cause an eruption. That's daily life for many. Bottled frustration, quiet disrespect, unspoken pressure, the constant grind of holding it all together. Then one minor spark lights the fuse, and afterward it always feels out of proportion. But it wasn't random, it was predictable. The solution isn't to blame the spark, it's to deal with the fuel. That means writing down what truly weighs on you, not just what's easy to admit. It means noticing your stress levels before they overflow, instead of masking them with anger or humor. It means choosing clarity over reaction. You're not weak for feeling overwhelmed. The weakness is in letting unexamined feelings dictate your actions. Strength is found in awareness. Be the kind of person who investigates his own mind, not the kind who lashes out blindly. So next time you feel that fire rising, don't suppress it, trace it, find its source. That's where real control begins. Look deeper into what your anger is really trying to tell you. When you name the true trigger, you begin to take back control. That's when anger stops being a prison and becomes a message. Don't just feel it, understand it, and then move forward on your own terms. Step 3. Stop taking things so personally. Most of the things that sting you were never meant to. That curt email from your boss, he's buried in deadlines. The silence from your partner, she may be wrestling with something you can't see. The driver who cut you off, he likely never even noticed you were there. Many of the slights you feel are simply reflections of your own expectations. When you make everything about you, you hand over your peace too easily. That isn't strength, it's dependence. It's letting your worth rise and fall on every word, every look, every careless gesture. It's like walking through the world with open wounds and blaming others for brushing against you. But a person who has learned self-mastery doesn't need constant gentleness to remain steady. He doesn't crumble if someone forgets to greet him. He doesn't rage if a voice is raised. He knows who he is, and that knowledge is enough. The Stoics had a name for this kind of strength: apatheia. It doesn't mean indifference. It means composure, the ability to remain unmoved by what lies outside your control. Not cold, but centered. This is where many go wrong. They interpret every minor slight as a personal attack. Their ego becomes fragile, flinching at shadows. One complaint at work, and they spiral. One misunderstanding at home, and they explode. But your emotions don't have to live at the mercy of every careless word or action. Let others speak. Let others act. Your peace doesn't belong to them. It belongs to you. You're not here to react. You're here to lead yourself first. Picture a boulder in the middle of a rushing river. The water crashes against it day and night, but the rock remains steady. It doesn't take the river personally. That's the kind of strength you build when you stop interpreting every word and action as an attack. Most people aren't aiming at you at all. They're projecting their own struggles, their own pain. It's rarely about you. It never was. So the next time someone snaps, pause. Don't rush to answer. Breathe. Watch. Ask yourself, what's really happening here? Does this truly have anything to do with me? Most of the time, it doesn't. Keep track of these moments. Write them down if you need to. You'll notice a pattern, and once you do, you stop being pulled into battles that were never yours. Self-control doesn't mean silence for its own sake. It means knowing when silence is strength. It's choosing not to swing at every pitch, not to chase every provocation. When you stop reacting to every jab, you start responding with presence and clarity. That's the shift, from being ruled by emotion to being guided by reason. Boys take everything personally. Men learn what to absorb and what to let pass. Practice this daily. When someone talks down to you, pause. When a stranger is rude, smile. Not because you're weak, but because you're unshakable. Because you know your value. Don't let noise govern your mind. Don't let offense steal your day. Stop handing away your peace so cheaply. True power begins when you take responsibility for how you respond. Step 4. Ask yourself, will this matter in 5 days? Stress has a way of exaggerating the smallest things. Distance gives perspective. That email your coworker forgot to answer. The driver who cut you off. The offhand comment at dinner. In an instant, it feels bigger than it is. Your mind spins a story, your emotions feed on it, and suddenly you're reacting as if a fuse has been lit. Here's the truth most overlook. Not everything deserves your energy, and almost nothing deserves your peace. When pressure builds, your nervous system starts scanning for threats, even where there are none. That's why a small inconvenience begins to feel like an insult. A simple delay feels like disrespect. You go from steady to snapping over things that won't even matter to you a week from now. That's the trap of the mind. It pulls you into battles that don't exist. But there's a way out. A simple question that cuts through the noise. Will this matter in 5 days? Not 5 years, just 5 days. If the answer is no, it isn't worth the spike in your blood pressure. It isn't worth the silent treatment at home. It isn't worth dragging a sour mood into your next meeting. Yet most people lose hours, even days, replaying small slights. A missed call, a rude cashier, a sarcastic remark. They let these moments take up space in their mind, hijack their attention, and spill their frustration onto people they care about. All over something that, in the grand scheme, means nothing. This is why perspective must be trained, the same way the body is trained. It doesn't happen overnight. But each time you ask, will this matter in 5 days? You sharpen your discipline, and soon you realize most things don't even pass the 5-minute test. And when something truly does matter, then you face it with clarity, not agitation. With steadiness, not impulse. That's the difference between being pulled by your emotions and standing in command of them. Calm, grounded, controlled. This is not passivity, it's strength. You're not ignoring problems. You're choosing which ones deserve your energy. Because the man who burns over everything eventually burns out. But the man who knows what to release can walk through storms without being shaken. When your mind starts spinning stories, pause. Step back. Imagine yourself a week from now. Will this moment even matter? Will it change anything lasting? If the answer is no, let it go. Shift your focus. Guard your peace. And if it does matter, then face it. But do it with reason, not rage. Your energy is a form of currency. Spend it wisely. Don't waste it on what has no value. So the next time anger stirs, pause. Breathe. Ask yourself, will this matter in 5 days? Make that question your shield. Turn it into a habit. That's how you stop giving anger control. That's how you reclaim your strength. That's how you lead. Step 5. Pause before you react. Anger is often a reflex, not a choice. It arrives uninvited, slams the door, and fills the room. One moment you're steady, and the next you're snapping at a coworker, gripping the steering wheel too tight, or shutting down at home over something small. That isn't power, it's surrender. The problem isn't that you feel anger, you're human. The problem is that most people never build a gap between the trigger and the response. They fire off like a machine stuck on reflex, letting their emotions dictate their actions. But if you want to lead, yourself or others, you can't afford to live that way. Not if you want respect, not if you want peace. You need space. A fraction of a second when the heat rises and you don't move. That space is where your power lives. It's not about suppressing what you feel. It's about owning it and then choosing how to respond. That's the mark of strength. Not the loudest voice in the room, but the steady one who holds his ground. Think of your mind like a loaded weapon. Every time someone presses your buttons, your hand moves toward the trigger. But the disciplined version of you doesn't fire. He holds. He breathes. He sees the situation clearly, not through the fog of rage. That pause isn't weakness, it's control. And control is rare. Control makes you formidable in the best way. Most people lash out, then regret it, saying things they didn't mean, doing damage they never intended, all because they never learned to pause. So the next time something cuts across your day, a careless comment, a delay, a small mistake, stop. Count to 3. Breathe through your nose. Keep your mouth closed. Then decide. Respond if you must, or let it pass. Either way, you are the one choosing, not your anger. That pause is the dividing line. The untrained react. The trained calculate. The untrained lose jobs, ruin dinners, and damage relationships over what could have been ignored. The trained remain steady. The Stoics understood this. They didn't seek to be emotionless, but unshakable. To them, emotions were information, not commands. And so it should be with you. There's nothing weak about pausing. In truth, it takes far more strength to hold back than to explode. It's easy to yell. It's harder to stay composed when every part of you wants to lash out. But that's the moment that shapes you. Every time you pause, you sharpen your discipline. You grow your edge. You reclaim your power. So train yourself to pause. Make it your first reflex. The next time anger rises, don't move. Don't speak. Don't react. Own the moment. That's where mastery begins. Then, and only then, act with purpose. That's how you stop giving anger control. That's how you lead yourself. Step 6. Set boundaries to prevent frustration. You're not angry because people are too much. You're angry because your limits aren't clear. When you let others walk in and out of your emotional space unchecked, don't be surprised when it gets violated. Think about your time, your energy, your attention. How much slips away because you never defined where the line is? Expecting others to just know isn't realistic. Clarity is your responsibility. Men who fail to define their standards end up reacting rather than leading. Boundaries aren't walls to shut people out. They're filters to protect your focus, your composure, your peace. A man without boundaries is like a soldier without armor. He absorbs everything, and eventually he breaks. Saying yes to work you hate, engaging in draining conversations, tolerating disrespect, then exploding over something small, it's predictable. That outburst isn't random. It's the accumulation of all the small things you allowed because you feared being too rigid or selfish. Passivity doesn't make you kind. It just builds frustration. And no one respects a man simmering beneath a forced smile. The Stoics understood this. They didn't control others. They mastered themselves. Marcus Aurelius didn't waste energy pleasing fools. Epictetus didn't seek approval. They knew where they ended and the world began. That's real power. And that power begins when you say clearly, this is acceptable, this is not. No drama, no argument, just discipline. Let's bring this closer to home. That coworker who dumps last-minute work on you, they do it because you've never said no. That friend who makes snide remarks at dinner, you laugh it off instead of addressing it. That client who calls at 10 p.m., you answer because you fear losing the deal more than losing yourself. That's not strength. That's surrender. Every time you fold, you give up a piece of your peace. Setting boundaries isn't rudeness, it's honesty. You teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate. You don't need to argue or raise your voice. You simply need to be clear and firm. I won't take calls after 6. Don't speak to me that way. Short, clear, final. Every boundary you set is a line drawn in the sand. Every line you uphold builds emotional discipline. Stop blaming others for stepping over lines you never drew. Don't expect bad behavior to stop on its own. Expect yourself to stop tolerating it. Frustration fades when clarity rises. If something keeps making you angry, don't vent endlessly. Set a limit. Resentment is a signal. Pay attention, track it, then act. Your sanity depends on your standards. Your peace is your responsibility, not theirs. Draw the line and hold it. Step 7. Use humor as a release valve. When you can laugh at nonsense, you've already won. Not because the situation changes, but because you do. Anger diminishes when humor enters. You're not avoiding the problem, you're disarming it. Most people walk through life like ticking bombs. One careless word, one ridiculous email, one inattentive driver away from explosion. Humor isn't weakness, it's disciplined control. You're not laughing because what happened was acceptable. You're laughing because your peace matters more than their chaos. That is true power. The Stoics understood this well. They didn't try to change the circus. They simply refused to become part of it. The modern man carrying pressure from work, family, and expectations cannot afford to lose his composure over things that don't deserve it. And nothing cuts through tension quite like a quiet smile or a subtle shake of the head. Think back to the last time someone said something absurd enough to make your blood boil. Now imagine observing it as an audience member rather than a participant. Suddenly, it looks like a sketch. That's the shift. Moving mentally from actor to observer, from offended to amused, gives you control. You don't waste energy. You don't take the bait. You stay sharp, focused, and steady. High performers, firefighters, soldiers, doctors, often use humor under stress. Not to distract themselves, but to puncture tension, clear the fog, and stay human when circumstances become intense. You don't need to voice the joke. The most effective humor is internal, a quiet smirk, a mental eye roll, a whispered, "You've got to be kidding me." That's not indifference, that's mastery. This isn't sarcasm or passive-aggressive commentary. That's emotional leakage disguised as wit. What we're talking about is clean strategic detachment. You are not triggered, you are trained. You observe, nod, breathe, maybe even smile, and then move forward. That's how disciplined people operate. They don't let every pebble in their path trip them up. In a world wired for outrage, restraint becomes rare. Humor gives you perspective. It reminds you that not every battle is yours to fight, and not every fool deserves a response. Sometimes the strongest move is to smile, shake your head, and continue. That is control. That's emotional strength. The next time life hands you a "you've got to be kidding me" moment, don't explode. Smile quietly. You're not here to entertain their chaos. You're here to master your own calm. Step 8. Respond like the person you want to become. Every reaction either builds or erodes the man you're striving to be. When someone acts out of ego or ignorance, you have a choice. Feed the fire or forge your control. Most men give away their power easily, not to kings, but to clowns. One careless coworker, one reckless driver, one loudmouth at dinner can yank their emotions around like a puppet. That isn't strength. That's submission disguised as outrage. Society tells us real men respond fast, hit back harder, never back down. The truth, the strongest man in the room doesn't react automatically. He chooses his response. He doesn't lose control just because someone else lost theirs. This is the Stoic shift, refusing to let the outside world dictate your internal state. Emotional discipline isn't built once and left alone. Like muscles, it requires repetition, habit, choice. Each time you snap, you rehearse weakness. Flip that. Imagine every provocation met with pause. You hold the silence. You observe the stupidity, not with anger, but with distance. This isn't indifference, it's mastery. It's stepping out of the storm while everyone else gets drenched. You become the person who isn't triggered, who doesn't over-explain, who remains grounded while the world spins in drama. This isn't passivity, it's strategy. Anger can be righteous, but blind rage is just noise. Each reaction either builds your identity or erodes it. Instead of exploding, compress. Hold the line. Ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Is this aligned with the man I'm becoming? With each choice made from purpose instead of emotion, your inner command grows louder. You start to respond from mastery, not impulse, and that is true power. In the real world, this shows up everywhere. In meetings, in traffic, in relationships. You either escalate or you anchor. You either mirror the chaos or you rise above it. Picture a father walking into a home full of noise, kids yelling, a stressed partner, phone buzzing. The old you might have been frustrated, loud, reactive. The new you is steady, calm, grounded. Because now, you're no longer reacting from ego. You're leading with identity. You're not just managing moments, you're embodying mastery. The most powerful version of yourself is quiet, focused, and emotionally untouchable. And it starts with one choice. Respond like the man you want to be remembered as, not the one who cracks under pressure. Next time something small pricks at your nerves, don't flinch. Don't feed it. Hold your frame. Think about who you're training to become, and act as if he's already in the room. Each moment of rising anger is life-testing your discipline, not to punish, but to sharpen you. You won't stop getting angry overnight, but you can train your reactions like a muscle. You can choose stillness over sparks, clarity over chaos. The man who earns peace isn't the one who avoids tension. It's the one who meets it with control. Remember this: the way you respond shapes the man you are becoming. You're not just managing emotions, you're building character. Emotional self-control isn't weakness, it's strength, earned through small, consistent actions, daily awareness, clear intention, thoughtful responses. Use what we've covered today as your training ground. Track your triggers. Pause and breathe before you speak. Ask yourself, Does this reaction align with the identity I want to live? That's the path. That's real power. Carry it into your week. Practice it, refine it, own it. And if you've had moments where anger got the better of you, or moments where calm prevailed, share your story in the comments. Your growth might be the spark someone else needs.